Hello, I'm Dan.
And I'm Keith.
And today we are taking you back in the day to look at the Lizzie McGuire pilot and then contrasting that with today, or a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago, the Andy Mack pilot. Also from the same creator as Lizzie McGuire. So we're looking at Disney Channel's Andy Mack's pilot and Disney Channel of Old's Lizzie McGuire pilot.
Yep, so we've seen Lizzie McGuire before, obviously. But for the first time, we watched Andy Mack pilot and we watched Lizzie McGuire pilot right after to compare and contrast, see how we feel, and see how we feel about Andy Mack in general.
So here we go.
Let's start with Andy Mack.
Okay.
And first things first, I will say I enjoyed it.
Yes.
I thought it was pretty good.
This is, by popular demand, people have been begging us for this content, and we just really wanted to get them, all
just get them just right in the face.
Yeah. So, but we're listening to you guys now, and I'm glad we did. I think it was a very good pilot. I have more issues with it than you do, but at the end of the day, it was leaps and bounds better than anything I've seen on Disney in quite a while.
Yeah. I mean, the camera work.
Yeah.
And just the fact that we started outside.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of things that took place outside.
Yeah.
Like, that goes so far.
Yeah.
Like, it's really was very cinematic.
Yeah. There's a place for 3-camera sitcom style setups and
And the garbage, you mean.
I mean I understand, we just did Raven's Home, and I think Raven's Home has its place. I just think its place is so far lower than Andy Mack's was.
Yeah, I mean, the shots that we had following behind when they were on the road and going down with the bike, and just the shots when she was creeping out in the night and grabbed the box and the light was falling exactly on her face in just the right time.
Just having cinematic lighting where it doesn't feel like everything's lit up equally in every section of the house.
Right. And her room was very colorful.
Yeah, her room was colorful, but not intensely saturated.
No, right? But it was. It actually was. It just, the spatial layout made it so the things that were in the background fell off, and even though they're bright colors, it didn't push itself up, and the lighting was very...
it's the lighting that made it. So it wasn't that it was that they might be bright colors, but the way it was color corrected and lit did not make it feel like it was popping into your face.
The lighting was cinematic and not flat wash lighting, and so that the things that were in the distance fell away, and all these bright colors were harmonious and worked together to create the palette of the visual experience.
And interestingly, a lot of the we're Disney, so we're gonna have things everywhere, and it's gonna be weird, intricate things they built into the character.
Yes.
Which I think was really cool, and that we were the Girl Meets World people, and we talked for so many episodes about, can they give Riley a thing? Can she be good at something? Can she like doing something?
Can she be good at something?
And yeah, I mean, they gave it to us right from the get-go here with Andy, with her sort of craftiness.
Yeah.
And that's a really fun thing, and that must be really fun for the prop directors.
I'm so interested in the little clubhouse that she has.
Yeah.
I mean, visually and just from a storytelling standpoint of the things that can happen there. What was it, Andy's Shack?
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Something like that.
Yeah.
But just the look of it from the outside, look from the inside, it's so cool.
Yeah.
And I really like how it's
integrated in the intro too.
It's very artsy, but it's looks like an old shed. There's wood, and it looks like old wood behind it.
Yeah.
I just think they did such a good job on that and her room. And
Well, I think it was a nice balance because clearly they have a lot of money, the family.
Right.
But it still felt homey because it had personality. So yes, there was a bit of eye roll of holy crap, they have so much money. But
that could kind of make sense. You know?
But it just felt oh, I'm seeing a real person who has money, as opposed to being oh, I'm seeing what you're supposed to expect. Right.
It never... I think that the experience with the characters never got generic. I didn't feel anything was cookie cutter. I really felt that even if I don't have the whole story yet, I know that there is a story.
Yeah. I think... So, I do have some issues with the pilot, which we'll get into more in a little bit. But I would say the ultimate thing I came away with is that this is a show with, brimming with potential. in a way that, we'll talk about Lizzie McGuire, even more than that.
Yeah.
Felt like we were watching a decom that we were going to get to watch for multiple episodes.
Right.
And that was really exciting. And it captured... It's interesting because it's almost at that point where the good stuff is so good that the bad stuff gets into this point of that's part of the charm.
Yeah.
Where it becomes like literally like what we want. Like it's like what we remember. We remember the shit, liking the things and them being good, but also remembering them being terrible.
There are things that are a little cheesy.
Yeah.
But it's so endearing.
Yeah.
It's just like it has that charm that I really enjoyed it. And I think that I honestly, I can't wait to do more videos to review the actual season.
Yeah. I 100% am on board for watching more of this.
Yeah.
And we should talk about the big thing, the twist here.
The twist.
There's
Her
a twist.
Sister.
The sister is the mama.
Is the mother. And this is interesting because when we were first introduced to the character, we're like, well, how old is she supposed to be? And Danny were like, oh, she's about 20. And I was like, I don't know. She looks a little older than that. And I think they actually did a really good job having this ambiguous age to that character.
Yeah. Well, when it was... I was saying I believe that on a television show she could be playing 20.
Right, but that's part of it. Though. That ambiguity is part of what made it work so well.
Yeah.
It's because you weren't sure if it was the actress was a little older than she was supposed to be for whatever reason, because it's a kid's show and they do that a lot.
Yeah.
Or if it was that it was an older character.
Yeah.
And I believe she was supposed to be in her late 20s.
Yeah.
At least mid 20s.
Yeah.
But I think they did a really good job. I think casting, I think they have a lot of cool people.
Yeah.
I definitely feel...
I didn't really want to jump into my negative stuff yet, but I will say I felt like the acting was uneven from almost everyone. I don't think anybody was flat out bad.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, again, with the potential thing, like, I don't care that the acting felt uneven in this episode. I hope it gets better, and I'm sure Andi, at minimum, will grow into her role more. And she certainly showed pieces here where I felt like she was good. So that's enough.
So Andy Mack, the actress that played her, Peyton, I think that even if she had these things where the lines came across as awkward, right?
Yeah.
To me, that was less of her poorly delivering lines, and that became part of the character. And I know that there's obviously a middle ground, there's a mushy middle, and I don't know how much of it is just her personality coming through in the lines, which could be bad acting, but at the same time, I enjoyed it because I'm getting this understated kind of character from her that I'm really liking. The way that it's delivered is, when it's awkward, it's not awkward in like a trying too hard way, which I think is charming. I think it kind of sets the character.
It was... So I guess... It's really tough with a character like that, because you're right, the character is intrinsically set up to be the awkward young character.
Right.
But to me, there were times where I could see her doing it well, and there were times where I could see her doing it not well, where I felt like I could see the direction and her trying to meet the direction and not fully hitting it. And again, this is all super subjective, and again, she's a young kid and that's fine. But,
subject to change.
But also, I'm not saying just her. I think that Bex was a little bit uneven. Yeah. I think Bex was really good when she was really good, but I think she was uneven. And I think, like, the parents are a little bit meh. I felt like I think they have
in a great way, though.
I think the whole twist of her being the mom.
Right. The older sister isn't the older sister, it's the mother.
And that's such a mind-blowing idea on a kid's show, especially on a Disney show, and what that brings up, like, just the simple implications of that, and the fact, because you hear about, I heard her troubled sister comes back, right? Yeah. And I'm like, oh, what did she, like, not go to college or something? Like,
whoa, we got a tough guy over here. Didn't go to college.
She like Maya and like held a hammer once. And
so in the pilot already, we have a reference to periods.
Yeah.
And we have a reference to teenage pregnancy.
Yeah.
Pregnancy. I can words.
It's treating it it's taking the kid gloves off a little bit, and that's just in the first episode.
And I think it's also doing it in a way that isn't stereotypy. I mean, it's not. It doesn't feel ABC Family to me. It feels a lot more.
Well, I think it helps that there's a comedic edge.
Yes.
That helps. Like, if you're gonna have a soap opera-y, which, let's be honest, is a little bit soap opera-y premise, that if you're having fun with it a little bit and you're not like, this is super serious all the time, I think that helps enormously. Also,
it's
having
the give and take.
I also think there's a huge difference between having it be about a 13-year-old and having it be about a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
I feel like if you have it about a 13-year-old, that kind of grounds it in a way that makes it seem less the drama than it is a 16-year-old. They built up the connections between the characters, and they built up the backstory in a nice way here.
Yeah. The secret box
was
really weird until it was explained.
Yeah.
When it was explained, I let it go and I was okay with it.
Yeah.
But for those couple minutes where we were like, whoa, secret box, you know, like I was like, but why?
I just thought it was stupid and funny. Like, you know, it's another thing. It's interesting in connection with Girl Meets World is the whole idea of like we have to have like a whodunit or a mystery. Like, what's the reveal gonna be?
Right.
And the thing is, like, I when seeing the box stuff, I was like, I never got close to figuring it out ahead of time because I never thought that Disney would do anything worth trying to guess.
Right. You know what the other thing that saves it for me with the bubble box is? Before we get the reveal, and the reveal is the hidden compartment with a picture of Bex with the daughter, Andi, we already get the idea of photography and like the Polaroid photography that she was doing and pulling those out. So we already have the idea of photography and it's grounded in the physical photos.
Yeah.
And then we get back to it's about the photo as the reveal.
Yeah.
And I really like that.
Yeah.
That's like a subtle signifier that like legitimizes something that comes later on without you realizing it's talking about it.
No, it's great. Yeah. I think what was cool about it too is that nothing about the story, like, aside from the weirdness of the box, but nothing about the way Bex was acting felt like it couldn't have made sense with what we thought the story was before. Right. As far as, it could have easily still been like, oh, Bex like escaped from her like tough, like stifling parentage, and now feels guilty that she left her sister behind to deal with all that without being there for her, and that all would have worked fine as a show on its own, you know, like.
Right.
But this just added a whole other
takes up
level.
a notch,
Yeah. You know, I was watching this and I could tell that I was at once really liking it and really being impressed, and on the other hand, like being like annoyed at it for not being perfect. And I'm like, it's a kids show, calm down. Like, you know, especially
in your head you're like, calm down, Dad. It's fine, Dad.
And similar to the Girl Meets World thing where I'm like, Girl Meets World I was hard on because I knew what it could be with Boy Meets World.
Right.
And here, I was like, you're so close that I really just want you to be perfect.
But I think
like,
the biggest thing about that is because it had such cinematic elements.
Yeah.
Because it started off so strong with some of the things it tried to do.
Yeah.
It really, you know right off the bat that the potential is there, and it's like, it's so within grasp.
Yeah.
So I think I can totally get that.
Yeah.
Because you're not even judging it as a kid show, you're judging it as like, this is a movie I'm watching.
Yeah, exactly. That was the thing, is I was like, you have me in here enough that I really am judging you as something that could be legitimately good, as
top
opposed
tier.
As opposed to something that is good for, because I hate that idea of good for the kids because the kids are stupid and can take whatever. It's like, kids will take what you give them, yes, so give them something worthwhile. So yeah, I mean, it was so close that I was just like, I just wish that I could just treat it with with full respect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's good.
Yeah, because it is good, and that's the thing. So then it did bother me that so many things happened so quickly, and that people like he got like suddenly so dramatically upset with Bex after the ultimate frisbee. Frisbee, that's the word.
After the ninjas attacked.
After the frisbee thing, and then immediately as she was very dramatically upset, got the text, immediately was okay with it, and immediately had to tell, like, it just felt like, and then immediately went into this super intense thing, and then immediately, like, we had to, like, undercut it with her, like, weird humor about it. And I don't know, it was, I felt like I kind of wish, personally, that this episode ended with Bex looking at the picture so the audience knew and Andy hadn't found out yet.
for what it's worth, pacing can really bother me.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me that much. I'm aware of the things that you're saying, but I think it was like a 24-minute episode. Yeah. I think they handle the pacing really well.
I feel like they, and you know what? I mean, yes and no. I get where you're coming from.
You want it to be an hour episode pilot.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it just a 24 minutes for everything they were trying to do. I mean, I'll say this. I think they did a pretty good job with what they could do in 24 minutes. I just think that this had to set up so many different things within that 24 minutes. It had to set up her friends, who she was as a character, who her mother, I guess we're saying now, is the character, who her grandparents are, and set up this boy thing, and then do the reveal, and then have her react to the reveal, and
the scooter.
Yeah, like it was. Yeah, and the scooter was like the actual like mini arc of the episode. So there was a lot going on, and I just don't think they needed to tackle. I think they did their best. If they were like, we need to tackle all these things in one episode, they did a pretty good job of it. I think that they needed to tackle all those things in one episode.
I can see that. For me, I hated when Girl Meets World did that. Yeah. And I felt they did it poorly. Yeah. I think they did a great job with that. Yeah. Even though they did do that.
Well, that's the thing. I wouldn't say anything felt, like when we didn't like it in Girl Meets World is because they were trying to do too many different things. Mm-hmm. I think that this all fell together in line in a way that made sense. Mm-hmm. I just wish each part had more time.
Right. No, I understand. You're mad because you wanted to sit down and watch a movie and there was an episode.
Yeah. I mean that's true. Or at least like a 40, like a double, like a 2-part premiere or something. Because I do think that we need a little bit more time. And I think the thing that makes it tough is that it is supposed to be a kid's show and it's supposed to be a comedy, and so we have like this actual dramatic thing, and I'm like, holy crap, they're doing this actual dramatic thing, but they can't like actually linger in that in any way. Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes going forward.
I will say, it's pretty high budget looking.
Yeah.
I have no complaints about the way that they're handling anything from a technical standpoint. It looks, the sets, the way they're filming. Yeah. I mean, it's all there.
Yeah, and I really like the intro. I really like the diversity. Mm-hmm. I like that we got a little bit of the friends, but we got a taste of her bigger world, but it wasn't about them this episode.
Right, because it was a family episode, so we got to know about the friends. Yeah, but it wasn't like, I'm here at home dealing with this, but my friends came through the window because they're contractually obligated to be in the episode for X amount of minutes. Yeah.
So,
for me, the low point was the mean girlfriend character. Mm. I mean, is it actually his girlfriend? We don't know. It could have just been she's like that.
My favorite joke, though, was the Amber Alert thing. I thought that was really funny.
That was pretty great.
But yes, the girlfriend feels very tropey.
Yeah. She was the most generic thing in this episode, full of really great specific things.
It's funny because on most shows like this, I would assume, well, she's gonna be a trope. But I'm like almost wondering, like, when are we gonna see like the trope turned on its head? Was it just a trope for this episode because it's a premiere, it's not about her, and eventually we'll get some depth there? I could see that happening.
So one of two things could happen. It can be, it's the bad girl, like, not bad girl, but it's the villain, cheerleader type character, like Kate from Lizzie McGuire. Or it can be more like in Veronica Mars, like the Dick Casablancas, where it's like, okay, it's like the biggest asshole character, but like the more and more you go on, you start to have to feel bad for them.
Yeah.
So
there's something clearly under the surface causing problems for them.
Yeah,
and I could see that, like we find out about that character's home life or something. Mm-hmm. And I also, to me, like of all the tropes, like especially if it's not like the main thrust of the episode, of all the tropes, I get it. There's always going to be that kind of person in real life too, to a certain degree. Yes, they're going to have more dimension, but the thing is, even in real life, you kind of like don't want to think about that dimension when you're that age. You're like, they're my enemy, they're so attractive, they must, be happy, have a perfect life. Well,
that's why it's dangerous to have that in the kid show to reinforces that kind of thinking.
But I just feel like that thinking is going to be there no matter what. But
that's terrible.
But I get where you're coming from, for sure.
But yeah, the what the Frisbee Boy
Frisbee Boy
and Sweater Boy. They look so similar.
Yeah, so her friend, her male friend,
I forget his name,
and her love interest look incredibly similar, and I don't understand why they cast two people who basically are the same person. All right, Lizzie McGuire?
Lizzie McGuire.
Yeah, so we had both remembered this episode. Neither of us remembered it as being the pilot.
Which is cool and weird.
Yeah.
Because usually a pilot is very like, hey guys, this is what the show's about. Do you remember this? This is the character's background in like 2 sentences right here.
Yeah.
But they just kind of got into it.
Well, that's the thing that I liked about Lizzie McGuire in general, was there was no premise. It was just, this girl's awkward, watch her be in middle school. And that's what I always, like, I think that was part of what I never got around to saying, really, but the core of what I didn't really connect with Raven's Home, as far as, I just never was going to be fully on board with a show that's centered around people having psychic visions. As far as a show, it's about coming of age. Like, these types of shows, what I always wanted was just the no frills, like Even Stevens or Lizzie McGuire or Boy Meets World, where it's like, there's no premise, it's just people's lives.
Right.
And the thing is that Andy Mack is a nice in-between, where there is a premise here, but it's also just like a major event occurred that can happen to a normal person. Like,
well,
you know, like,
you say there's a premise, and I'm assuming you're meaning the twist.
Yeah.
Right? And I guess that is the premise, but in a way, it isn't, because even though that elevated the storyline and the art of it in this episode, that isn't the premise of it until it happens.
Yeah.
So there's still like a mood of the show and like what it is before that's even a part of it. So I don't know if that's the premise.
Well, but the premise though, and especially if you look on the synopsis or whatever, the premise is Big Sister comes back to town and makes everything, like, throws everything out of whack. You know, like, that she has a troubled sister who comes in and they have an interesting relationship and it totally turns her life upside down. So that, I mean, it's a very basic premise, and that's why I prefer that kind of thing, because it makes me able to put myself in those shoes more directly. And so that's the thing, is I think that Lizzie McGuire doesn't need setup, doesn't need background, because it is just normal life.
Right. And
I think that there's pros and cons to that, because I like
now, when you're saying normal life, it's because you have a little animated Dan over there that's like narrating it.
That's the thing that I think that's really great about Lizzie McGuire, is that it finds that in-between spot where it's stylized, but the actual what's happening isn't. You know, like...
Because they are very similar shows.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see the creator in the both works. It's just that Lizzie McGuire is so much more of a comedy.
Yeah.
It's so much more of a lighter thing, even though we do have, like, just enough meanness in, like, the interaction between kids. It's not, like, whitewashed. It's not, like, weird and change it to something else.
Even the Kate character that you brought up in Lizzie McGuire, she was a bully, but I really liked the extra layer of them. They used to be friends.
Right.
Because that feels especially real for middle school. Like, I know a lot of people like that in middle school.
Like, me and Dan used to be friends, and now we hate each other.
Yeah, because we're in middle school.
Yes.
But I think that's the thing, is I loved that Andy Mack, like, ended with, like, a cliffhanger, that we don't know what's going on with the dad part of it. And I think that's really cool, but I don't think every show needs that. And so I think that Lizzie McGuire versus Andy Mack are two nice opposite ends of the spectrum, where I almost don't know how to compare them, because Lizzie McGuire is intrinsically about what the wacky happenings of the week, whereas this does seem like, yes, there'll be wacky happenings every week, but it's more...
It's a drama.
It's a dramedy, whereas I really feel like Lizzie McGuire is a comedy that sometimes had something else going on.
Right. The thing with Lizzie McGuire, too, is it really did also capture that kind of... there's also charm. I mean, it's cheesy and charming. Yeah. And at the same time, you feel not only like you can enjoy the characters, but you feel like you can get immersed in what they're doing. And again, the cinematography, even though it's very comical, it's, it's not the sitcom setup. It's like you're following things along. You have like the lunch line, and you have the camera moving along on the other side of the lunch line. Sometimes you don't notice it, but it does so much to bring you into the world. Yeah. And when you're into the world, even if nothing's happening, you feel like you're part of it. And that's a huge thing.
I mean, something that I thought was really cool was I actually I think I might have appreciated Lizzie McGuire more now than I did then, because I was very aware now of all the stylized choices. Yeah. Whereas before I was just like, oh, this is a funny show. Where now I was like, these sound effects are like such a choice. These transitions are such a joy. Like the way that they whip the camera in certain way. Like
yeah, when you're young, you absorb these things and like they become part of it, but you don't necessarily understand why or what that means.
Yeah.
And you can it's compare the Girl Meets World pilot to either of these pilots, and you see the choices that go into it and the outcomes from those choices.
I mean, the thing that I think is interesting, if we're gonna be like, we should try to be somewhat fair to Girl Meets World, is that it was trying to be a comedy, and
Lizzie McGuire.
Well, Lizzie McGuire was too. So as far as comparing it to Andy Mack, though, whereas I feel like you're very right that was almost drama first, comedy second, and I will say, if we're gonna judge them as comedy, I do think Girl Meets World was funnier than Andy Mack. I don't think Andy Mack was that funny, but I also don't think that it was usually trying to be.
Yeah, see, the thing that really breaks it for me is the pilot for GMW is pretty cringy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And Andy Mack, no cringe.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only cringes I was getting is I was like, every once in a while, I was like, oh, you're dipping back into something lower than you are. Like, whereas there are pieces of GMW.
You're dipping back into something lower than you are. Yeah. Is that like your motto?
Well, no, be like
I know what you mean. Yeah. That's such a weird way to put it.
You're like, you're falling into some of the traps here and there, or like you're
you're better than that.
Yeah, you're better than that, exactly.
You're better than that, Maya.
But no, at no point I was cringing throughout Girl Meets World's pilot because I was like, oh, they're not better.
They're not better.
This is what they are. But again, it's hard to compare it just to the Girl Meets World pilot because we know that it did get better than that. It did get legitimately funny.
Obviously it did, but it's, that being said, if this is the starting place, what happens?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the kind of thing where you can tell when the show started, they knew what they were doing now and a little bit of where they're going. Yeah. I think that when Girl Meets World started, they were like, oh, let's just do this.
Yeah. We kind of ended up judging it as a drama because they were tackling major issues and treating themselves as...
They tried to be.
They were treating themselves as though they were a drama, but they were still a sitcom. And I feel like doing it in sitcom format, like literal, like 3-camera sitcom format, is really difficult. And you're already...
character entries themselves just change.
Yeah. I mean, you're already at a disadvantage, right? Because the world feels silly. Like, but again, it can happen. I think Boy Meets World tackled a lot of things pretty well. But Lizzie McGuire was dope. I think Andy Mack's better, but I also think they're very different. I will say I had no issues with Hilary Duff's acting, so that to me was a little bit different. But also, she wasn't being given dramatic material.
Was that her first thing? Or
no, that was not her first thing. I don't think. Nothing. I don't know if she's done anything like big.
Yeah.
But she's been in some stuff here and there.
Yeah, I feel like she was a little bit more tenured at the start. Like, she wasn't like a no-name.
Yeah. Although I don't really know anything about Peyton's, backstory or whatever. But I'm excited to see more. I'm actually pretty happy that we waited this long because
now we have everything at once.
Yeah, we can watch season 1 and be ready for season 2. And so I guess we should tell people, I don't know what our specific plans are, but we're going to cover this show in some fashion.
Probably in chunks.
We're probably going to do, other than the pilot, we're probably going to do like 3-episode chunks.
3 or 4 parts chunks to review the first season.
Yeah. And is there anything else you want to say before I ask them some questions over there in the YouTube land?
Questions?
Yeah, I have some questions for them.
Alright, guys. Did you bring your number 2 pencils?
Okay. Do you A, want to hug Keith? B, want to steal his hat? Or C, want to answer my question, which is, we are doing these YouTube videos. We hope you enjoy this. Obviously,
we're doing them right now.
Yeah. Obviously, Raven's Home is doing pretty well for us if you look at our views versus our other views. And so we want to cater to you guys. We want to connect with the community that we built up with Girl Meets World. But we also want to continue doing content that isn't specific to Disney Channel. And so we want to know what you, this Disney Channel enjoying audience, wants to see that isn't just that. Not to say that we won't do that, not to say we won't do DComs, not to say that I won't necessarily maybe talk more about Raven's Home. But if there's something else that you're interested in that you'd like to hear us talk about, cover, whatever, please let us know in the comments, because we'd like to have an ebb and flow of the different kinds of things that we talk about. But we know that you guys are out there and we want to speak to you. Anything else? All right, guys, thank you for watching. Please check out our other videos. New videos are Mondays and Thursdays, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check back here for more Andy Mack. We don't know when it will be, but you can check our Twitter at GMW Podcast. And
because that makes sense.
Yes. And thanks for watching.